As we hover here with exponential functions, we're going to start with kind of a warm-up here, back to domain and range from a couple days ago. And so I want to start with one that I guess I'm going to call normal, for lack of a better word, and then we'll work into a couple of the strange ones so we can make sure we know what's going on here. So first things first, domain is my x values from left to right. So let's say we're doing number 2. One of the things we talked about a lot, oh, it's like they're coming in, is that when I have arrows equal infinity or negative infinity, depending on if I'm going right or left. We talked a lot about that the first day. So the first thing I always want to look at with these graphs is, do I see arrows? If I do, I know infinity is going to be involved somehow. So domain goes left to right. I notice these arrows, okay? And they're both going to the left. So that just means this is going to keep going, and so is this. So my domain would start forever to the left because of the arrows, okay? Because arrows are always infinity. But here's the thing with my domain this time. It doesn't go forever to the right. I don't see any arrow that's pointing to the right. So I start to look around, and I'm like, what's the furthest point to the right in my graph? It's like right here where this curve is. And all I need there is the x value at that point. And I'm done. Literally, what's furthest to the left, what's furthest to the right, whether it's a number or if it's an arrow in infinity, and that's it for domain. And it'll be similar for range here. It's like a question that stopped midstream. Why bottom to top? Now again, I have this stuff if I'm trying to figure it out for some time. Oh, I grabbed the wrong one. I do have it in my notes. I just grabbed the wrong copy. So I can always look for it back there as well, and we do more of that when we get to the quiz preview. So, okay, y values. Bottom, I'm going down forever. So there's my bottom. My bottom is at negative infinity as I go down forever. And as I follow along, I'm looking for the top, and I get here and I'm like, oh, that's just going to keep going up forever. So it's possible sometimes that both parts of my domain or range be infinite, or just one part can be, and I actually can get a number for the other. So I want to do one more normal one before we do the weird one. You're going to be like, Hardy, that's normal? Oh, it's going to be normal. We're going to number 5. We're going to go check out number 5. We'll come back down here in a minute if we need to. So I get down to 5, and I'm like, okay, why I did not put D and R here, I have no idea, but we will now. Okay, so I noticed this time, no arrows, little dots on the ends. So we're going to have no infinity this time. Everything's going to be numbers. So with that in mind, domain is left to right. What's my furthest point left on this graph? What's its x value? Look all the way to the left and follow it back to the x-axis. Where will it end up? There's my furthest point to the left. Love colors. If I follow it back to the x-axis, there's -6, there's -8. It's -7 right in the middle. So I'm just going to go, where's it at? in regards to x. And so I keep going. Where's the furthest to the right? Right here. And just use the x value that's there. That's the thing I got to keep reminding myself of. Domain is always going to be x values. Okay, so we're always going to find the value here, even if the point's not there. When I do range, okay, same set of points. We're doing y, though. Bottom, 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 -7. To top, top, top. Top, no. Top. Yes. Yeah, left to right, always for domain. You got to be in the right order. And range is always going to be bottom to top, no matter what. So, I can have arrows, then I get infinities. I can have no arrows, then I just have numbers. Then I've got the weird one. The weird one, I'm going to come back down here for a minute. We don't see this very often, but I'm like, oh, well, it showed up on the sheet, so we got to chat about it. Number 1. Number 1's kind of weird. You're like, I don't even see it. Oh, it's right there. It's just that line. Okay. So, my domain, this is the weird part. This line right here that we can barely see, so I'm going to highlight it a little better. There is one x value the whole time. There's nothing to the left. There's nothing to the right. It's this one value right here where x is 3, because that's the line right here, right between 2 and 4. So my domain, as weird as that sounds, is 3. If you wanted to be like, I want to write 2 numbers for everything, you could write 3 to 3. That wouldn't be wrong. You start at 3, you stop at 3, left to right, it's the only number. This is the only time you'll run into this, though, is if you have just a straight line, either direction, that can happen. But for range, nothing is different, because I'm starting down forever. So, okay, on the rewind on domain, typically, because numbers, you actually get the value right there, right? So for domain here, the only x value that is on every single part of this line is x equals 3. Like the x value never changes. Technically, I'd want to put it that way, just the 3. But if you put 3 to 3, because you're like, well, we always got to put 2 numbers, we do every other time, you can put the same number twice if it happens to work out that way. So that's just kind of getting our heads thinking again about, okay, domain is x, range is y, and kind of playing with it, which is going to lead us into what we were doing yesterday. So let's play with a few of these. Let's see how this is going. So over on the back, onto page number 6. Excuse me. Okay, sketch the graph of the function. All right. Find the y-intercept, domain, range, and function value. I've got the steps written over here on the sideboard if you don't want to flip back and forth with notes or something for right now. But you are going to want to be working and not just watching me do it, because when you've got to do it on your own, we want to make sure we're good. So, okay, first thing, we need to get our equation in. F of x is just a fancy way of saying y equals, so we can just make that y equals. And so now to get started, over on the sideboard it says press y equals to put the equation in. Now, let's say there's something in there already. Hopefully it wouldn't look something like that. That's kind of crazy. But let's say there's something there and you want to get rid of it. Anytime that you want to erase something, we're just going to hit this clear button over here right under the arrow buttons. That'll wipe whatever's there out and let us get a fresh start. And so once we get that out of the way, now we're going to type in what I see here. So 5 times 2, that's to the x power, not times x. So if you want the exponent, that's over here by clear and right above the divide bar, this little arrow up. And x is right next to alpha, right next to the green button. Okay, we don't want to use like the alphabet keys on this to get x. That will not help me. And again, we always got this help over here to reference. So, okay, I see what I got there. And we chatted a little bit yesterday about how normally there's going to be a number afterwards here. I'm coming back, so you don't have to flip with me. Like here, we got -1 or -2 or something like that. If there's not a number afterwards, we're just going to put in +0, and you'll see why I'm thinking that way in a moment here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll put that in. And I'm going to take a look at the graph. So like, okay, first thing I notice, it's growth. It goes up as it goes to the right because my b value is bigger than 1. Okay, I know it didn't ask me for this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because we mentioned yesterday, if the b value is bigger than 1, it's going to be growth. Almost every time we found out. And so I get to here and I go, okay, so do I just kind of sketch it and go? No. We want to bring up the table or the chart. We want to get good points. So the second button, this blue one, we're going to hit that, and we're going to hit the graph button over here on the right, and we're going to have access to all the possible points. Now, sometimes I may only get a few, sometimes I may get a lot. It just depends. But I want them to fit on my graph, and I don't like decimals, so let's see. So 0, 5, got that one. We got 1, 10, okay. We got 2, 20. Now, everything after that is either too big or it's getting decimally. So, now, I don't think some decimal is bad. I mean, 2.5, I'm like, okay, I can do 2.5. But then it starts getting kind of kooky. So, the other reason we wanted to put that +0 in is because we notice my graph starts to get down to really close to where y equals 0, another name for the x-axis. And so we chatted about how whatever this number is, we're going to go where that equals y on our graph, and we're going to put our math electrical fence, which we call an asymptote. That's just our do not cross line. So when I'm going to sketch this, and I'm going to connect my points and go, once I get here, we better start curving because I can't touch the electrical line. Yeah, my curve got a little funky there at the end. So that's how I'm going to do my graphs with arrows at both ends. All right. So that gives me the opportunity then to do some work down below. And I'm not going to do it in the order it's in. I'm going to do my free square first. Every single one of these you do, it's going to be infinite for domain. Okay, why? Because if I'm looking, I see this arrow, it's going forever to the left, so we go left to right. That would be negative infinity, forever to the left. And as I follow it to the right, it's going to keep going to the right and up. So every graph we see is going to do that in some form. So that's the easy one every time. Range, we talked about this too. It goes up forever, But it doesn't go down forever. It only goes down as low as the electric fence my asymptote will let me. So that's why we have this here to know where that's going to start. So whatever the number on the end is where my asymptote goes, which is where my range piece comes from. And the rest of this we're going to get off the calculator. So my y-intercept always occurs when x equals 0. That's why I put the 0 here. But if I want to know about the y value, I got options. Check this out. We didn't even talk about one of these yesterday. If I go back to the graph or the table, okay, second graph. Let's try it again. Second, there we go. X equals 0. Go to where x equals 0. What's the y value? Plug it in. Take it straight from the table. Let the calculator do the work. I don't want to do the work. I mean, I can see it right there. It's at 0.5. But otherwise, I can let the chart help me. And I'm going to do the same thing on this f of number thing. We mentioned yesterday, all that is that's the x value. Okay? So this is asking, when x equals 1, what's y? So, okay, I go to where x equals 1. Boop, come over. 10, that's y. So the y-intercept and the f of the function notation, both are just values I'm stealing out of the calculator. I don't have to do anything. So out of this whole thing, to be honest, the only thing I really had to think about a little bit is where does this asymptote go? But the equation tells me that too. So, okay, I got to find something funky. I got to find a funky one. Ooh, okay, that's funky. Did I do? Yeah, let's do 12. So over to page 7 we go. We're going to do 12. Then we're going to kind of see if we've still got some questions that we're trying to figure out with some stuff. Or I might let you try this out for a bit. All right, let me get my calculator back up. Back to y equals. I got stuff there. I don't want that there anymore. That doesn't look anything like number 12. So I'm going to hit clear. We're going to get that out of the way. And we're going to type this in as best we can. So we're going to copy, so 2 times. Make sure, yes, the parentheses, we need them. We do not have a fraction button on here. We're just going to divide by 2. I just noticed my calculator's about to die. This could be interesting. There's my exponent button, my little up arrow. X. Now, here's something we didn't run into before. So I notice the -1 is not up in the exponent with x. It's down where the rest of my numbers are. If I just type -1 right now, don't do this, just kind of see, you notice how the -1 is up in the exponent instead of down there? That's no good. So I'm going to delete that out. That's not good. Don't want that. There's a little right arrow blinking. If I hit my right arrow, it comes back down, and now I'm in business. So I got to make sure for some detail stuff like that. So I hit my graph. And this time when it comes in, it's not going up to the right. It's coming down because my b value is 1/2. And when we're under 1, it's decay. So that number we're taking to the x power will always give me an idea of what my picture should look like. And so I get here, and I'm like, okay, let's pull up the chart. Second graph. All right, where's some whole numbers that are going to fit? Well, yeah, -315 will fit. Okay. -2, 7. -1, 3. Ooh, I got a lot this time. 0, 1, 1, 0. Then it starts to get a little funky. So I also notice, if I go back and look at the graph, we're not hugging the x-axis this time. And there's a very good reason for that. Because if there's a number on the end, that is the y value of our asymptote, our do not cross line. So when I start to connect the dots that I could get, make sure your graph isn't touching the electric. Don't want to do it. We can get really close, but don't go past it. And I can get my graph. Domain, I don't even have to look at the graph. I know what it is already, because it's always infinity, negative to positive. Range, I kind of been told too what's going on. I get the easy part. It's going up forever. What's the bottom of my range? Probably like -1. Wherever the fence is where we stop. So -1. Bam. And these other two, we are going to just strip straight from the chart, because the y-intercept is when x equals 0. Go to x equals 0. 0, 1. Okay, y-intercept, x is 0 every time. F of -4 just means that's the x value I want you to go to. Pop over to y. And I'm done. So a couple of button presses to get maybe some points and maybe to figure out a couple of values. Everything else is just going to be some simple patterns. So take this second half of the period. Try some of these. I will get the notes from yesterday up here too if you want to see them. But I would recommend possibly watching that lesson 2 on Classroom. Okay, under classwork, you can see any day of the week in here, whatever you need, and we'll get you set there. Actually, before I stop in this video, let's switch over so we can see the notes. Oh, I got to do this. What am I doing? Whoever's watching this later is like, what is this guy doing? This is kind of... Okay, there we go. And then I will freeze the screen on this once I get... Screen...